Hello, it's very bright in here today. Don't know why, it's not very nice weather. Hope you're all well, and I'm hopefully going to teach you how to crochet today. So I'm actually going to just jump on my computer as well, because in a moment I'm going to turn this camera over, so then I'm not going to be able to see you anymore. Although luckily it's gone dark again. So 2 seconds, let me just, I'm going to kind of join here as well. Let me see, watch live. I think I've got the volume down, turn the volume off, volume off. And watch. So that's a bit weird. But that means if you ask any questions, then I can see them on the computer and then I can reply, because you're going to only be able to see my hands. Does that make sense? I hope it's going to make sense. It's weird doing a live video because you're never sure, like you can't practice it before, because if I do practice it, I have to actually go live to practice it. So then everyone gets a notification saying that something's happening. So I'm just winging it. So I hope you're all having a good day. I hope I got a mixture of people here today. Maybe people who haven't crocheted for a long time, maybe people who've never crocheted before. I would never a year ago have thought that I would be offering this on Facebook to lots of people. It seems really still quite a little bit strange, but what's happened in the last year for me is that I have been doing online classes on Zoom, which again was kind of a bit, I can't remember why it started. I think I just gave it a try, and it's been going really well, and I taught it in person for a long time before that. I generally stick to kind of beginner's level. I can't claim to be an amazing crocheter. I think I teach a lot of beginners because I found it really hard to learn crochet, and therefore I needed to know the basics, and a lot of lessons were very fast. And then I have now figured out a lot of the very, very basics, and now I understand it, and now I like to pass that on. But I'm here wearing what we'll be making. Well, we won't finish this today, but I will teach you this process. And it's a straight stitch. There's another really good video on Virtual Village Hall, and she makes like a beautiful flower, and that's great if you want to learn how to make circles. Off centre actually, it's strange. But obviously if you want to make blankets and straight projects, then you need to know how to do straight lines when you crochet. So that's what I'm hoping to get through today. I wanted to show you a couple of things that I've made before. So my crocheting began when I lived in Shanghai, and a friend posted a picture that she wanted to make a Christmas blanket, and I thought, oh, I can do that, I can craft. And it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. It took me, apart from maybe the bike behind me, it took me 9 months to make this, and there's some embarrassing sections, like the first 2 that I did. Oh, those ugly colour changes. But I actually I thought to go back at the end and unpick them and like make it perfect, or not perfect, but really good, because some of the later ones look great. But I didn't, because I quite like that it shows my journey. Oh yes, no problems. I'll talk a little bit about US and UK sizes. Again, I've got hopefully a simple way of helping you understand the difference between those. I'll remember that, and do remind me if I forget. And then I've recently in lockdown been making hats for everyone. It's finally something I can make that maybe men like, which is good. I've just made myself a little beanie kind of thing, like a beret, I suppose. And then my sister just had a baby, so I made Billy. Oh, his eyes gone a bit strange. I made Billy a little caterpillar. That challenged every part of me, because that isn't my kind of crochet. I'm definitely more of a kind of quick and easy crocheter, so this was quite a lot of patience required. And thank you for agreeing that it's part of my journey. Yes, no worries, Jane, you can watch it later, and yeah, you can skip this first 5 minutes and get into the action. And then at the moment I'm into these like multi-stitch blankets. My friend actually made this one at the bottom, and I made this one, and I'm currently trying an even harder one, not harder actually, like a totally multi-stitch blanket. So every line is going to be a different stitch, and I'm really enjoying the process of learning all different stitches, and it's really like increasing my confidence in crochet. And I'm realizing that all these lines are done with maybe 3 stitches, a double, a half treble and a treble, but it's all about just putting those stitches in different positions. So rather than just putting it in 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, is occasionally skipping 2 and putting 3 in the next, skipping 2 and putting 3 in the next. This will all sound crazy if you have never crocheted before, But again, keep it in mind, do a sampler blanket or a multi-stitch blanket, as they're sometimes called, when you're a bit more confident, when you've made a few headbands, because I've found this really enjoyable, and you can just kind of watch any video, and I've got a few videos if you need as well. All right, so here we go, lots of people arriving. Yeah, really big one. Fab. Well, thanks for all enjoying my blankets. I don't know where I'm going to put them all, but it's the best way to spend an evening. I'm a busy person. I can't just sit and do nothing. You know, my dog, I stroke her for a while, and then 5 minutes later I'm a bit bored, and then I play on my phone for a while. So crochet is just a really good way to keep me from not kind of, I don't know, like spending the entire night wasted on my phone. Right, so I'm going to do a little bit upright, and then I'm going to flip the camera. Okay, so the bit I'm going to do upright is the very basics, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about yarns and things. You'll have noticed all the things I just showed you were quite chunky things. That is my go-to yarn for absolutely anything. So I buy chunky. The cheapest one I can find is, we have a shop here called Shaw's. The yarn actually comes from a brand called Mariner yarns, and they're like just over £1 for a ball, which is really good at beginner's level. So I just buy their chunky yarn. It is a little acrylic-y, well, it is acrylic, but it is a really good, easy one to learn. Now the size of the yarn is about 6mm, so it's kind of a 6mm thickness in the yarn itself. And therefore you need to have a matching hook. So it's very much like knitting if you've ever done that before. This is 6, this is 6, that's it. A common one to use is a 4mm hook and a 4mm yarn, like a DK or an Aran. But the problem with that is that everything, one is smaller. So you're looking for tiny little holes. You're looking for, you know, you're really having to concentrate on what you do. So I always use a 6 for beginners lessons, and I would suggest starting with a 6. An 8 sometimes almost is too big. So I find the 6 is a good in-between number. You'll just need those two things. And then these two things are often quite useful. This is a darning needle, so just a needle with a big hole. And then this, you may get these often in packs, is a stitch marker. So very much like a safety pin, but it's a really good way of counting your stitches. So you just pop it in and then you carry on, and you know that you left it at number 10 or something, so you don't have to concentrate too much when you're crocheting. And then obviously some sort of pair of scissors. Yeah, so a comment on yarn sizes. Do you know what? I agree with that, is that some people, and I definitely have loads here, and I buy chunky all the time, and then I'm often quite surprised. So chunkies that are chunky, that are like 6mm and they're a nice size, I find Mariner and Paint Box yarn are really good. I do find, these are both actually by Stylecraft, and they're a nice brand, but they're definitely not as thick as those, and I often have to use a 5mm hook to do those. I can think about that a little bit more later if you like, and add some more comments. But yes, I do find that Mariner yarns and Paint Box are my two favourites for being 6mm and being chunky. So hopefully that helps with that question there. I'm just going to use a bit of rope actually to show you the first bit, and then like I said, I'll flip the camera in a moment and we'll get started on a headband. The good thing about a headband is that it's actually quite hard, which sounds a bit weird, I know, but because you're going to be changing your, you're going to be going back and forth every 8 stitches, it's 8 stitches wide. So actually, like with a blanket, the hardest bit is turning those corners and going back. So with a blanket, you may actually do 150 stitches, and then you have to do the difficult bit, and then you have to do 150 stitches back, if that makes sense. Whilst this, you're going to be doing 8 stitches turning, 8 stitches turning, but this therefore is a very good project. So you're going to use maybe 1/3 of a ball of yarn, so you can make 3 headbands with a ball, and therefore by the time you finish that, your blanket ready. So and you know, you should find I can whip these up in about 20-30 minutes now, whilst it probably will take you 2 or 3 hours for your first one, but hopefully each one will get a little bit faster. You'll see lots of things. People often write the word whips. I hope everyone knows what that. It's like work in progress. I didn't actually know what that meant till recently. And then there's also, you'll hear the term cal, which I think is a crochet along, where people join like groups and all do a crochet together. So there's some acronyms for you, but there's a lot of acronyms in crochet, I'm afraid, but once you get your head around them, you'll be fine. So, oh yeah, let's talk stitches. Someone asked earlier about American versus UK stitches. Basically, all our stitches names are one bigger than theirs, okay? So we both call something small a slip stitch, which is where you just grab the yarn and pull it through. That's, both countries do that. They call something that they call a single stitch, we call a double, okay? So theirs is smaller, ours is bigger. We have a half treble stitch. They call that, let's get this right the way around. Sorry, I'm confusing myself now. Everything we call is bigger. So if they call it half treble, yes, then we call it treble. And then we call something treble, and I think they call it double treble or something even bigger. So that might help a little bit. But when you're watching videos, you need to look out for accents and check who they are. My favourite UK crocheter, who I always go to when you're watching videos, is I always watch Bella Coco. She's fantastic and her videos are really clear. She has really good film quality. She always has little text boxes at the bottom of the screen. I find her videos really enjoyable. And I also just ask Google very specific questions. So if I need to know a chain, how to do a chain, I write Bella Coco chain stitch, and then it takes me to that video, which is great. And it's like a 2-minute video on how to do a chain. And I feel quite happy. And she refers to the American words for things, but she generally uses the British. So maybe that'll help a lot of the British watchers here. Okay, so we're going to start with the slip knot. So maybe some of you have done this before. There's also many ways of doing a slip knot. So don't worry if you think that isn't the way I do it. It's just you need a knot that moves basically. And the way that I do it, I'm just going to use some rope for a little while, is I just cross, so I make like a little fish, like so, all right, and then I'm taking the longer end and I'm putting that through the center of kind of the fish, and then I'm grabbing those two ends and making it like that, so that then it slips, all right? So if I grab the working yarn, which is what we call the longer yarn, it moves. So just one more time. So making a little fish, this time the yarn here, the longer yarn, the working yarn, is on the underside. So I'm going to pull that through. It goes through the opposite side, so it goes through. And that's the loop that becomes the loop that attaches to your hook. And then the two straight lines you pull, and then you're going to adjust those to fit your hoop. All right, well, thank you. Jill loves the headband. One thing, like this is maybe quite rare, but maybe some of you are lucky enough, because when I do a beginner's class, I send everyone a little kit. I put in a little line of stitches, so people just start by stitching straight away. So if there is someone in your home that you're bubbled with or nearby, you could always ask them to do you a line of stitches and then like skip this video later to like a few minutes in when I'm showing you the stitch. The reason I say that is that it's much easier when you've got something in your hand to hold. This at the moment feels very weird when you're beginning because you've got nothing and you're kind of in a pickle. So I would suggest if there's anyone you know who can crochet you just a small line, like for this it'll be 8 stitches, and maybe just do a couple, and then you've got something to hold in your hand whilst you're learning, and then you can hopefully go back and do this stage afterwards. Oh, here we go. Denny does some prem hats. That's lovely. That's the good thing as well with crochet, is there's always kind of a charity opportunity where you can do something to help others. Right, so now we're going to do a chain. Okay, so the chain stitch is just the foundation line where you start your crochet, and all you're going to do is you're going to be doing yarn over. So we always talk about that. So again, it's a bit weird at the moment because I'm in the kind of the wrong perspective, but I will change for the stitch. I'm just trying to check any questions that I get before then, because I'll be a bit out of the loop then. So yarn over is always where you've got your crochet hook and you're taking it from the back to the front. And this hook here needs to become your friend, okay? You need to trust it to do what it's there for, which is to grab the yarn in its little beak and pull it through. Okay, so I'm doing obviously right-handed. This hook's a bit small for this rope. I'm doing right-handed crochet, okay, so obviously holding it like a pen or a knife in your right hand, and then my left hand is holding the yarn. Obviously, if you are left-handed, I'm not very good at demonstrating in left, but you would hold your hook in your left hand and your yarn in your right. Again, it's probably looking a bit confusing because I'm mirrored, but I promise soon I will pop down to this angle. Okay, so yarn over is back of the needle, back of the hook, sorry, over to the front. I grab that little knot from the previous stitch there and I pull it through. Okay, so I'm going to be doing that 10 times in total, and I'll explain why, because you may have heard I've said that we're going to be doing 8 stitches quite a lot of times, but I'll explain why you're chaining 10 in a second. So give me a second. Hopefully some of you are joining live and you're able to carry on. So yarning over and pulling through, and I'm about to flip my camera so I can show you a little bit more clearly on my table here in front of me. Okay, so give me a second to do that. My messy house. Oh, this one I need it, sorry. Ooh. Right, there we go. And so let's try and just get it right. Okay, I think that'll be okay. Yeah, maybe a bit too big, 2 seconds. I'll just go a bit further away. Right. Ooh. There you go. Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna skip to my wool now. The only thing is it's on the side. Let me just turn it so it's straight again. Technology, eh? There we go. Yes, this is why I've changed the camera. Someone just mentioned that. I thought about that this morning. So hopefully in a second it'll straighten up and we'll be crocheting together. Okay, so there I've got my slip knot, and then I am going to do 10 chains. So that's yarn over, pulling through. Okay, yarn over, pulling through. So can you see each time I'm grabbing it with my left hand? This is something to note, okay? So I don't actually hold mine correctly, okay? Oh, here we go, Mikey. Oh yeah, that's true. Actually, Jill says Mikey from the craft crowd does left-handed. Yeah, he's a genius. So yeah, if you ever want to watch left-handed, the only thing it's American, but you hopefully can convert quite quickly. I hold my yarn like this. I think the proper way is meant to be through a thing, like through your pinky or through your index finger. Anyway, you won't find your way straight away. It'll have to just happen because it'll become annoying when your thread keeps dropping. But all you're doing with your left hand is keeping it kind of tense, okay? So you're just kind of holding it so that it's still, so that you're not dropping it all the time, because you constantly need that thread ready by your hook, not floating down here. All right, so I think I did 2, I can't remember now. 1, I'll tell you how to count them in a minute, 3 I think. Okay, so 4, ooh, and 5, and so yarn over. Can you see what you'll notice? I'm like flipping my crochet hook a little bit, so therefore I'm not scagging it as I go through. I'm pulling it nice and underneath. So yarn over. If you're totally new to crochet, this would be a really good thing to just sit and do for hours. There you go. All right, so you can just literally go for hours and you just learn, and then by the end of it you'll be feeling really confident with your crochet hook and your how you hold it in your left hand. So now I forgot to keep counting, so let's use something. What I'd suggest is you use something to help you count, okay? So if you just try and do it by staring at it, you'll easily lose count because you'll not remember which one you're at. So we do not count the knot that we did. That is not a stitch, okay? We're going to ignore that. And then we're just looking for the little rainbows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this is actually the width of the amount of stitches that I want to do, but I actually need to add 2 more. And again, I'll explain that in a minute, but that basically is like the side of your work, because the stitches that we're going to do, I'm going to teach you half treble, which is kind of like the medium size stitch as far as the 3 main British stitches. So now I've done 10. A few people are mentioning that I need to work a bit higher, so I'm just going to adjust my seat a little bit so I'm a little bit more comfortable. I'm also going to take my charger out because that's kind of in my way, so let me just get myself set up. I'm going to move my cup of coffee as well so you don't have to look at that. There you go. Is that a bit better? It's the problem with all the text, isn't it? Oh, here you go. Someone's saying, if you're watching on a phone, turn your phone and the comments will be hidden. Thank you, Virtual Village. Well, I didn't actually know that. That's very handy because it's often quite difficult. I was watching something the other day and had the same problem. So yeah, if you screen from left to right, it will remove the questions. If you oh yes, and also, okay, there's also that little swipey on the left-hand side on most phones. If you swipe, you can ask for comments to be removed. That's quite handy because I will try my best to work at the top of the screen, but obviously occasionally it's uncomfortable, so I'll be able to do that. Yes, or you can swipe the comments from left to right to hide them. Great. Here we go. It looks like you're all onto this. Right. Okay, so what I'd suggest is that you watch, all right, I'll do it once, and if you just sip on your tea and watch me do this, and then afterwards you can join in when you, I'll take it out and you can do it again. That's the lovely thing with crochet, is that you don't actually have to, it's not like knitting. You can actually have a little play around, which is good because it's really easy to take things apart. So the process we're going to do is we're going to go yarn over. So that's, did you see, I use my finger to take it over. If you're new, you may just manually pop it over the back. Your yarn should always be behind your work, and I'm holding my actual chains in my left hand between these two fingers here, okay? And what I've got here is I'm going to actually skip. I'm going to ignore chain number 1 and chain number 2 because they're actually going to act like the side of the work. They're going to create the height of the work, and I only actually want 8 chains, okay? 8 stitches for this piece of work. So when I've done that, so I've done 1 yarn over, I'm then going into the hole here, okay? And then the yarn behind, again, until you're more confident, it might not be there waiting for you. You need to just place the yarn over the hook, and then you are pulling that through, all right? Then you've got 3 hoops on your hook, okay? This is the last part of, so all of this is 1 stitch, believe it or not, but it comes faster. So then you do 1 more yarn over, so always back to front. I grab this work, this is going to be the hardest bit that you do. And then can you see I'm swiveling down my hook so it's facing so it's facing away from all this, and I'm pulling that through. So although that was a lot of steps, can you see the stitch is quite big? If you were knitting, that would be a few stitches that you'd have to do there. So it's like 3 or 4 steps, but 1 stitch is quite big. So I'll do 2 more and then I'll undo it. So if you wanted to join in, you could then join in. So it's going from back to front. I'm going into my next chain, which is that little area here. It's a little bit tricky to see, but I know it's like a little rainbow at the top. I'm coming through, I'm popping my yarn on top, I'm pulling that through, and then I've got 3 on. Then I'm doing yarn over, and then I'm tilting my hook down towards me, and I am pulling it through. Cool. Yarn over. Ooh, a bit wobbly, sorry, I touched my tripod. I'm going into the next hole, and then I'm pulling it through, moving them over a little, yarn over. Your tension at first will be all over the place, okay? But then suddenly it'll all make sense. So let me unravel that. And if you're joining me live, this would be when you join. That's the great thing, like I said, with crochet. If I made a mistake or I wasn't sure I did something right, you can just unravel it, and you're just always looking for this top one to be popped out. So I'm taking it all the way back till I've got 10 chains again, okay? I'm popping my hook inside that hoop there. This is great, so many of you watching. I've seen a real increase in the amount of people wanting to do crochet this year. I think lockdown has been a very good opportunity to learn a new skill. Okay, so 1, 2, we're missing those. Okay, I'll explain that a little bit better later. But for now, just ignore the first little chain and the second chain. And I want you to do a yarn over from back to front. And then I want you to go into the 3rd chain, okay, from front to back. Then popping that yarn behind that you're holding in your left hand. Like I said, mine's kind of trapped between my fingers there. I want you to pull that through to the front. So there's 3 there. These might currently be a bit tight. I'm quite a loose crocheter myself, so make sure you've given them a little bit of a wiggle so they're as big as they possibly can be before we do the very last stage, which is yarn over, and then rotate your hook down and then pull it through all 3 stitches. Sarah saying very helpful, that's great to know. Yarn over, let's do number 2, okay? Yarn over, this time into the next hole, so we only ignore those 2 chains at the beginning. Then popping the hook, the yarn over the hook there, bringing that back through, and then yarn over one more time. Ooh, sorry, I keep touching my tripod, it's in a bit of a funny position. Ooh. And pulling that through. All right. Yarn over. So let's get to the end of the line. Okay, I'll go a tiny bit faster. And we're hopefully, if you counted correctly, you should be able to have 8 people on 8 people. Dear me, 8 stitches. And I'll show you how to count your stitches when we get there as well, just in case you've lost count because of all the chatter and the excitement that you're crocheting. Whoa, oh man, I'm going to move this. I'm just going to move my hands a little just because I keep tapping the tripod. One, 2. So the good thing is you can watch this again, and also when I finish I can share a video with you. It's on my YouTube channel by me. It's making the headband. It's normally a private video that I only share with people who come to my class, but I feel attached to you guys now. You're saying nice things, so I'll post the link. And it's the same process again, but maybe a little bit faster, or like it's more for people who've like done the class, so have a little bit of an understanding. So it might be a little bit faster for you. So it might help clarify what you may have learnt. Right, so you should have something that looks like that very soon. Maybe I'll give you a minute. I'll have a little sip of my coffee, and that's your first line. Thanks, Lisa, for sharing. Right, okay, I have my coffee, I'm happy now. So when you get to the end of the line, let me just try and get some paper and try and explain crochet, as it took me months to understand this. Oh, thank you, Paula. Someone said I'm very nice and easy to listen to. Let me get some paper and try and explain why you do 8 stitches, 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that was our knot. All right, so we started with a knot and then we did 8 chains because we want a headband that is 8 stitches wide. That all seems quite easy. And then I went and confused things by telling you to add 2 more chains. But those 2 chains actually become the height of the stitch. They're kind of like what we call like the corner. So if this was a written pattern, it would say like chain 8 plus 2. Which I used to find really annoying. I used to think, well, why don't they just say chain 2? But different stitches have different heights. So for instance, if I was doing a single, like a double crochet, a single America, I would just add a +1 for a double crochet. Yeah, because that's not so tall, the stitch. If I was adding a treble crochet, I would add 8 plus 3 for a treble crochet. All right, because that's much bigger. So we're doing a medium-sized stitch, so we're just going to add 2. So that means when we do those crochet stitches, they're nice and stretched out. If we hadn't done those and we'd done the work straight into it, it would have all been clogged up inside here. So we don't want that. We want to make sure that our stitches are nice and tall and our work grows up nice and quickly. So then when we get to the end, which is where we just were, you need to, before you start crocheting your new line, you need to crochet 2 chains first, because then that creates the height for the next row. So none of your stitches are actually, none of your rows are going to be any wider than 8. You're just always going to be adding 2, and that's going to build up the height of your work. So hopefully that'll help you in your kind of quest to learning crochet, because I didn't understand that. Well, Emma says yes, she makes it so yes. I'm so happy that one person will do me, because like I said, I didn't understand that for a long time, and it used to make all my work not be square. It was always triangular or polygonal or whatever it's called. So that means I've got to the end. I need to add 2 chains. So that's just what we were doing at the beginning, yarn over and pull through. And now I'm going to flip my work. Oh man, silly tripod. Now I'm going to flip my work, and now I've got that height ready for the next stitch. So it's exactly the same. So because those are the height stitches, we're going to skip this one, we're going to skip this one, and we're going to go into this one. Now this, the chain row and the stitch row look slightly different. From now on, we want to crochet into the whole hole. Okay, so if you look at the stitch from the front, on the top, it's actually got a little V. So you're actually going through the whole stitch. Okay, so you must have that little V there. So if we quickly stop and identify ours, I've got a hole there. I've got a hole there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to pause. All right, I want to show you something special when we get to here, because actually it's slightly different where the position of the final hole on every line. So that's why this headband is actually quite tricky, because you're going to be going through that, the beginning and the end, twice on every row, or once on every row each. So that's why it's actually harder than a blanket in many ways. So it's yarn over. Then we're going into the first hole. So we're skipping 2, skip, skip, going into the third, which is this one here. This now actually has kind of a whole stitch on the top of it. It could be divided if it wasn't so fluffy. And here we go, pull that through. Got 3 on, yarn over, and pull. Ooh. If you do make a mistake like that, sometimes you can rectify it. If you can't, it's totally in a pickle. You can just undo it. You don't have to, that's a good thing. You can just fix problems quite quickly. Paula's sharing how it's very addictive. It is so addictive, and you can kind of see things and you just want to know how to make them. It opens up your mind to, like, I was teaching a hat class recently and everyone was like, I've never really thought about how a hat was made before. And now, now I'm looking at hats differently. Yarn over, through, pick up the stitch. So exactly the same as line 1, just the holes are slightly different. They're slightly bigger. The chain, one thing to say about the chain actually is a lot of people, especially if you crochet quite tightly, is they use a bigger hook to make their chain row. So maybe you would use an 8mm for your chain, and then you would go down to the correct size to match your yarn for the crocheting itself. Oh, again, I caught myself there, trying to avoid the tripod. Yeah. And yay, Paula says that's the first time she's understood that. This is making my day. And if you don't understand what it meant now, just crochet for a while and go back to it, because honestly, I feel like it's the top tip that I share that makes crochet make sense. Okay, nearly there. All right, so now I've got to 7 stitches. Okay, the 7th stitch was there, and now the 8th one there isn't a space by there, but actually if you grab it with your left hand, the first row, there's actually a pretty big hole there, and what it is it's surrounded by chains. So if you think about it, let's go back to my lovely drawing from earlier. What you're doing is you're going into this space here. All right, you're going into the chain space from the previous line. So that's why it looks different, because it is slightly different, because you've got here a little cluster of chains and you need to go inside there. So it feels very weird because number 7 is all the way up here and number 8 is like 0.5 centimetre lower down by here, but that is totally correct, and that's how you'll get straight edges. What a lot of people do is try and go into this stuff by here because it looks similar. This is also where people either lose a stitch or gain a stitch, because they sometimes miss it because it looks different, or they sometimes go into like these parts of the chain and they start to add stitches. So you must, on your final stitch, you must look for this bigger space here, the chain space. So you're going yarn over. Feels a bit weird because you're going a little bit lower than what you have been doing, going all the way down to there. Pick up that thread from behind, yarn over, and pull through. And look, it's lovely and square. So you have to get in that chain space. So number 7 was there, number 8 was there, but it works, I promise. All right, I'll do one more row and then I'll talk to you a little bit about how you actually turn this into a headband. Okay, so we're chaining 2 before we turn the corner. So you chain 2, you flip like a book. All right. And then we're ready to start again. So again, we're ignoring these because they're actually the corner or the height. So we're ignoring number 1, we're ignoring number 2, we're going into number 3, and we're making sure every stitch we go in from now on is the whole stitch. Okay, so the V is on the top surface. So again, yarn over into the third chain there, or the third stitch, pulling it through, yarn over. It's great to see that the numbers of this class have stayed the same. I thought some of you might have thought, oh my God, what have I done? But no, you're willing to give this a go. I'd love to know if any of you have actually are joining me on their 3rd line, or whether you're just watching for now and thinking about whether you're going to take up crochet or not. It'd be great to know if some of you are actually having a go at a headband. So it's yarn over into the next available hole, pulling it through, yarn over one more time. So I imagine for now this yarn over that I'm doing is probably a little bit clunky, but it'll just become annoying. I know that sounds mean, but you'll just find a way. It'll suddenly slip into your hand. Ooh. So again, if I make a mistake there, I can try and recover it. Or if I hadn't recovered it, I would have just undone it and I would have just done it again. That's the great thing with crochet, is you can just stop and you can just return to wherever you are. The same would be true if you suddenly realise you made a mistake a few stitches ago. It's very flexible. Oh, Lucy says thanks. Says she loves it. Or do you mind if I just quickly let the postman in? 2 seconds. Sorry, not let him in, but I just need to grab something. 2 seconds. Sorry. Thank you. Is there a period there? Is it all right? Very much. Is that right? Thank you. Yeah, good. Cheers. Bye. So sorry, he needed to take a photo and everything of the delivery. Sorry, where was I? So I was just saying how flexible crochet was. So the problem with all these deliveries now, isn't it? 6, yes, that's right. 6 equals 6 mil. So as in everything's 6 mil. The yarn is 6. So 6 mil. Therefore, the hook is 6 mil. Or kind of, it'll always say when you're buying yarn, it'll always say on the packaging. If I've got any packaging here, I always take it off. But it'll just always say on the pack, I have a little picture of a crochet hook, and it'll tell you what yarn to buy. But I like a chunky. This is a chunky, which matches a 6 hook. Right, here we go again at the end. Let's just run through that. So we had 7 stitches. And again, how do I count my stitches? You never count what's on the hook. All right, that never counts as a stitch. So it's always these fully formed ones. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is often quite hard to count this last one because there is something similar, which is on the end. But if you think about it, that's the chain space that you made earlier. So the only one that counts is the one that's on the top surface. Okay, so I've got 7, which means I'm at the end of the line which means that I've got to look for that chain space. So I'm grabbing my work between my fingers again. If you were left-handed, you would be grabbing it like this and be looking for it there. But if you're right-handed, you're grabbing it there. And then that's the hole that I'm going into for the last stitch. So yarn over into the hole, picking it up, yarn over and pulling it through. All right, so I'll just get started on the next one. Got some lovely comments here. Oh, Kitty lost it. Sorry, Kitty. But like I said, I'll as soon as I finish, I'll send a video which is on my YouTube page, which is the whole process of how to make the headband, and it'll be a lovely combination with this video because it's almost a little bit faster than this video because it's assuming that you've done a bit. So you could always watch this video first and then that bit where I was slowly demonstrating, and then combine it with the video to see the rest. All right, so basically, let me just put me back on selfie mode. Here we go. Oh, that was good, wasn't it? That was a bit of technology. So let me just show you how to put it together. I don't know what's going on with the light in my house today. It looks like I'm in a disco. So I'm just going to show you how to put them together. Let me take this one off, sort my hair out. All I've done is I just kept crocheting. So can you see that is part of that's a little bit thinner actually. This is the Mariner yarn I talked about earlier. And then this one is the Stylecraft that is a little bit thinner because it's the same amount of stitches, I think. So I've done a row and I've just kept building it up, building it up, building it up until I've got to the end. And then to put it together, I've got a little example here. All right, so you make it to the length that you want. You just keep going and keep going. And when you're happy, I've just changed colours here, but not, you wouldn't. You would just leave a 30 centimetres worth of wool left. And then you'd get a darning needle. Let's find it. There we go. So don't change colour. Like I said, it's just, this was my way of hopefully helping you see how to put it together. And all you want to do is just link the sides so that they're kind of matching. So you should have stitch 1, stitch 2, 3, 4, 5. That should obviously, hopefully happen naturally. And then what you're going to be doing is there's a few ways of putting things together. This is just super simple. You can crochet things together. I'm just going to go through from side 1 over to side 1, so to opposite sides. So this is like a ladder stitch, isn't it? A ladder over, then 2 to 2, like so, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, 5 to 5. I think you get it. 6, 7. Okay, all the way along. So this is quite a quick way of doing it. Make sure you get those edges. You can also gather them a bit, so you can pull them in a little bit at the end before you just do a knot on the edge. So a knot would just be like a loop and then just pass it through the loop. You might want to do 2 of those. You never in crochet or knitting cut right next to the knot, just because that could cause you some problems later. You'll often hear weaving it in. So well, I may as well do it. You would cut, I need a bit more thread, 2 seconds. Weaving in is where you just take it on a little journey through the work. So you just go on a little zigzag journey so it kind of gets lost. Like so. All right, and then you would cut it off. So then cut it off by there, knowing that that is now kind of a little bit tangled and hopefully won't come out again. And then can you see the little bit that goes around it is just a miniature one. So it's a little bit smaller than what we've made. So just maybe 2 lines of work would be totally fine. And then you just put them together in exactly the same way. So you just join the edges. So you just cover that joint and then you just stitch it up. And then you've got the kind of the design of the headband then. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can say. Even like one thing to know, if you do move on to blankets, what I do with my blankets is I make like a little sample like this. So that's a miniature version of my big one. So I have a little practice first, check the colours look nice, and then I move on to my big one, knowing that I'm happy with my design. Cool. It looks like, and I'll just read any questions for a second. I'm going to put my headband back on. My hair's a bit of a mess. ready for the winter. But yeah, really easy, like I said, and if you're able to get hold of one ball of wool, one crochet hook, you should be able to make 3 of these with it, and by then you'll have turned so many corners and you'll have figured out exactly those annoying little places, the chaining of 2 and the weird little space at the end, and between those 2 things you are ready then to do any crochet project that you like. Yeah, no worries, Anne. You can just rewind afterwards. It'll come up on the feed, and like I said, and I'll post a YouTube video as well. Yes. Thank you, Virtual Village Hall, for dealing with my admin. It seems like it's been a busy day today. So I'm back again twice in the next couple of weeks. I know I'm doing on the 1st of March. I'm actually joining my mum. She's a florist, and we're going to make a swag together. I didn't know what a swag was. It's like a piece of wood covered in lots of beautiful foliage and lots of opportunity for you to forage it rather than kind of buy anything. So look out for adverts about that, and we'll explain what you need to collect. And before that, I'm doing a spring wreath, and that's going to be either a cardboard or a wire frame, lots of wool, pom-poms and flowers, lots of colourful things. I need to finish the demo actually, and then I'll get a photo over to Virtual Village Hall, and if you fancy joining that, it'd be great to see you. Great. Oh, thank you, Maggie. I've really enjoyed it. Like I said, sorry I'm in this weird bright light. I don't know why that's happening, but look like I'm like an angel. And yeah, hope to see you again soon. And do post any pictures of your headbands if you manage to make any. All right, have a lovely afternoon, okay? Bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.